Are you an ambitious leader ready to break through limiting beliefs, align with your purpose, and thrive in your career without sacrificing your well-being or postponing your true desires? I'm Diana Ordonez, certified high-performance coach and your host. Each week, we'll dive into actionable insights and research-based strategies to help you unlock clarity, build unshakable confidence, and take courageous action toward a life of impact and fulfillment. If you're ready to overcome fear, embrace growth, and step boldly into your next level, you're in the right place. Let's create a life filled with courage and purpose together. Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here today with Nikki Pett, who is the owner and CEO of Sigma Promotions. And today we're going to be talking all things personal development and Nikki's journey. Nikki also happens to be a certified high performance coach, and that's actually another big part of what she does even at Sigma Promotions. So I'm excited to talk to you today, and thank you for your time to share all the wealth of knowledge as you've gone through this incredible journey and all the ways that it's impacted how you lead with courage, lead with purpose. And I love hearing your story, and I love hearing all the things that you do for your team. So why don't we just get digging right into it? Because, we've talked about this a little bit, and I think it will resonate with a lot of people. And it's how did you kind of get to the place in your life and career where you pursued personal development?
Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I was probably 20 or 21 when I was introduced to personal development. And I remember vividly where I was. I had gone out for a lunch at Milestones, this place in Canada, which was great. And I sat there with one of my clients, and she brought up the topic. And I dropped her off back at her office. And she said, hold on a second, and brought me a copy of Success Magazine. And that was back in the days where they actually printed it. I miss those days. But she gave me this magazine. I was like, Success Magazine, what is this? And I devoured that magazine from cover to cover. And it was like my eyes were completely open to this brand new world. And I remember one of the first books that I was exposed to was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. And I remember at the time really struggling to read it, right? Because when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I was not ready for that kind of personal development at that time. I revisited maybe 10, 15 years later and absolutely loved it. And I loved Robin Sharma's work. And so I just started reading these articles and then trying some of these things and reading, Tony Robbins books. And I ended up having a coach through work, Bob, and who had a significant impact on my journey. And he recommended I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which changed everything. And so I do my best to revisit that book once a year, because we're in different places in our lives, different time, different lens whenever we revisit something. So that's like a staple book that I revisit.
I love Think and Grow Rich. So actually that leads me to thinking about, that big impossible goal that you set for yourself last year and that journey, right? And so talk about that a little bit. Like, where were you mentally, emotionally when you decided, I'm going to go after it? Like, what was the transition? What was the journey like? What mindset shifts did you have to make?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest mindset shifts, there was a lot of them last year, physically, emotionally, mentally, there were so many of them, from jumping in the ocean and trying surfing and being terrified of the ocean and not knowing how to swim. So that was a biggie. To even raising the bar again on our revenue goal and building our team. So I think the most profound shift for me was in hiring.
Mm.
So it was, and it was through coaching through you where we got to this place where, we're a smaller business, and I'm recognizing we have to like level up the candidates that we're attracting. And, you challenged me because I was finding some of these candidates that had like, gosh, 15, 20 years experience. And are they going to want to go leave this really big firm to come work at this little firm, Sigma Promotions? And you flipped the script on that literally. And you were like, what if they started in the industry, they worked for a small organization, they loved the connection, the family feel, the small size, you have higher levels of transparency and communication when it's small, not always, but you can if you're intentional about it. And sometimes that's lost in big business. And so you were sharing, like, what if some of these people are actually looking for you? And it shifted even my energy typing those LinkedIn messages from, hey, like you might be interested, to like, I have an amazing opportunity if you're looking for a shift. And that has completely transformed our hiring process. I am so excited about who we've brought onto the team, who's going to be starting soon, people who are now referring to other people who are starting with us. So it has been transformational also because we weave personal development into the business, which now that we have more and more people, like we take it for granted because it's in our DNA, right? Now, as we're bringing people who've been veterans in the industry for 15, 20 years, they're like, this is not normal. This is awesome. So it's just even built more confidence. So I would say on the hiring side and attracting top talent has had the major impact for sure.
Love that. Because for anybody that hasn't read it, definitely go read it. But the whole premise is that our belief, right? The power of belief. And what we're believing is what shapes, the results that we have. And so for you to like shift your belief from who's going to want to work for us to, oh my God, we are such a unicorn company. Like,
Yes.
and, for that very special person, this is the thing that they would ultimately love to, the place they would ultimately love to work at. And I remember in that conversation too, you talked about, how your energy was different, right? And so,
Big time. Yes.
and so what I loved about your story, and it was that outsider perspective, right, was that you said to me, I mean, and I want you to have the opportunity to say it to people in your voice and your energy, is that what was it about that one employee, right? You have a story about that one employee that, yes. I want you to say this.
Yeah. Well, and it's so awesome because now we've had even more. So I will share that story in a moment, but I'll share recently a 20-year vet in our industry randomly emailed on Friday and was like, I just want to let you know, I've been in this industry for a really long time. I've been on the supplier side, I've been on the distributor side, I've worked for good bosses, I've worked for crappy bosses, and this is literally by far the best place I've ever worked. I'm earning more than I've ever made before and feel appreciated. And I was like, so like we just need to find more amazing people like that, right? So backing up, personal development was a part of my path for several years. And I kind of, not that I selfishly held on to it, but it was kind of like I was doing my own thing, but I wasn't really sharing it with the team. And Bob, my coach who introduced me to Think and Grow Rich, he noticed that as I was growing this small team, this would have been, I don't know, 8 years ago, he said, you are kind of doing your own thing. You're traveling a lot. At the time, I was traveling and doing a lot of speaking engagements. And he said, that's great. If you want to keep that up and do that, that's one thing. But the reality is, these guys need a leader. And so you can either step up to the helm or you need to hire somebody, but somebody needs to take charge here. And I was like, oh. So then I started really focusing on personal development, but how to show up as a better leader. And I did a lot of things wrong, and I still mess up all the time. However, I started really pouring into team members and making sure that I was spending quality time, because I was of the mindset, which is very old school and traditional, of like, leave your problems at the door, come in and do your work. Nobody cares, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of companies that are still like that, right? And when I shifted my thinking to like, I'm going to really connect with the people on my team, know their hopes and desires. How can we support them? Build their self-confidence. Everything shifted. And I remember we were doing our annual Christmas luncheon, going through, celebrations and reflections. We were looking at goals for the upcoming year. We were talking about major aha moments that had happened throughout the year. We were going around the table, and somebody on my team said, I walked through these doors with zero self-confidence, and now I know I can do anything. And then somebody else was like, I feel the same way. And we've had these success stories, like continuously, people will say, I've been here for like 3 months and my life is totally different, right? So then I realized, okay, we sell promotional products and we do strategic marketing plans and we do them really well, right? We have happier people answering the phone and emails than most organizations because we pour into them. And at the end of the day, yes, we sell these promotional items. However, we're changing lives. Like Kristen, my right hand, whenever she does an onboarding or a new hire, she's like, Nikki, I cannot wait because I know this person's life is about to completely change. So it's wild because I love what I do. And then I've also been able to like really take a hold of what I now know is my purpose, is to be able to impact whoever crosses that threshold. Like, we have an opportunity to build their self-confidence, show them new beliefs, what's possible, break through limiting, like, it's been wild. It's great. And it continues. So
Yes, I love that. I had to mute myself. I don't know if my dogs were like barking all over the place. Sorry about that.
I love it. I love it. This is post COVID. It's like, you'll see a baby dash with a diaper and it's like nobody loses their cool. Everything's cool. Nothing to see here.
Yes. But I love that story because you realize like Sigma Promotions is not about just promotional products. It's about changing people's lives, right?
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
at the time that we talked too, it's not just about changing the lives of the people that you work with. You're also changing lives in other ways. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So this was also at your prompting. I was very hush hush and quiet growing up the way that I did. We don't announce when we give, we don't scream it from the rooftop. So that's how I grew up. And when I shared with you the impact of partnering with an organization called New Horizons House, and they rescue girls from sex trafficking organizations. They happen to be located in India, and absolutely transformational stories. What I love about the organization is they go in and they actually work with the local government. They even do sting operations. They pull girls out of like a brothel situation. They bring them into a home, but they rehabilitate them. They get an education. They either go on to a university or college or start their own business and become entrepreneurs. So they don't have to return to this way of life. And often it's different culturally and it's difficult to digest, right? Living in North America, this is difficult to digest, but oftentimes those girls are placed in those situations by family members because they need the income. And so we partnered with that organization, and our goal is to rescue 1,000 girls by 2030 and impact 1,000 girls' lives. With that said, we do have a global workforce now. And so we are actually looking at an organization based out of the Philippines. We're looking at an organization as well right near our head office in Aurora, Canada, because the area that we're in is one of the hub spots for sex trafficking for young girls. So it's like a real significant issue that's impacting the world. So yes, we're officially aligned with New Horizons House, and they're a phenomenal organization. But we're also now, as a team, feedback from the team, which has been great, is like, okay, we recognize there's other opportunities to help as well. So, yeah.
I love that. Yes. And so I love how you said that you're so aligned with your purpose now. So talk a little bit about how you got there. Like, how did you align with your purpose? And what was it like before you felt aligned with that purpose?
Yeah, I would say before it was a very narrow-minded focus on my goals. You know, it started when I first started in the business. It was like, how am I going to do my $230 car payment? And then it was proving to my parents that like I am onto something here. Like this could be a career, right? Because I had abandoned what I went to school for and went on this completely different path. And then it was, just being able to prove to myself that I could build this thing. And there was a lot of reactive building of the business where now I see it a much, much more intentional about making sure it's aligned. You know, I'm a certified high performance coach, as you mentioned. I also have worked with several high performance coaches because I believe in the curriculum so much. That curriculum has those open-ended questions that really make us slow down, go inward. When we feel discomfort, when we feel anxiety, chances are we're out of alignment. So it's like working with that first coach, going through that curriculum the first time. It's like, I'm fully aligned and engaged in living life to the fullest when I know my core values are in line with my actions every day. When I'm falling off track, that's when I feel the anxiety or depression or all of those things, right? So it's the courage to also daily reflect and look at, did I hit the mark or miss the mark? And if I miss the mark, we're human. How do I get back on track the next day? Which is why I love high performance coaching, and especially the high performance planner, which I've used, the only planner and calendar I have successfully stuck to for like 6 years. I used to always buy brand new ones every single year. It's the only one I have kept for 6 straight years. And it helped me make sure that I had that gut check at the end of the day.
Mhm.
I showed
Mhm.
up in alignment.
Yes, and being intentional, it definitely has been such a shift. And actually, Think and Grow Rich touches on this too. Now that since we're talking about it, it's about like knowing, right, what you want and having that belief in it, and then just hanging on to it with, that fervent belief that you're gonna have it, right? It's like, okay, well, when you're intentional about your values, that also means that you know what your values are. And so there has to be that reflection. And what was the shift for you, right? I know you said you got the Success magazine and you like devoured it, right? What was the shift for you where you started to, I don't know if that was before, I guess it must have been after you had the courage to like leave what you thought you were going to do and do something of your own. Because I want to talk about that too. A lot of times when people get a coach, it's because they're unhappy with where they are, they're unhappy with what they're doing, but they have all these, maybe they're limiting beliefs, maybe they're just fear, and getting back in alignment with what they love to do, what they believe they want to do more of. It's hard, it does take courage. And, how do you like intentionally tap into that courage and start to reflect on, what part of it do we own, right? Like I'm in this situation, I could be doing something different. talk about that because you had to have some sense of intention and reflection even before Success Magazine, right? Because you did go out and do your
Mm.
own thing and you went against the grain and you know you
Well,
did
okay. I should
yourself that
also,
you
sorry, I was going to say, you're making me sound very intentional at the time. I was not, okay? I was a rudderless ship. So, my favorite book at the time, well, after when I started reading personal development books, like one of my favorite that I devoured was Screw It, Let's Do It by Richard Branson. So that should give you some insight into my actual, true character. And it's so funny because I remember, my mom said several years after I started the business, 1 month after I got married, everyone said I was bananas. And I was like, wow, what's the risk? She's like, you're very courageous. You take a lot of risks. And I'm like, I don't see it that way. Like, okay, I see it as like, I will not go down without a fierce fight. So for me, I didn't see a risk in it, right? Like, I see it, my husband and I were talking about this, and I said, being an entrepreneur is actually the most job secure you'll ever be when everybody says it's risky because you will do anything, you will move mountains before you fail at yourself, right? So that's how I didn't really see it as like a risk or courageous because it's like I'm counting on me, like the buck stops here. I've got it's gonna happen. So maybe that ties back to belief.
yeah, I love that. Well, it's belief in yourself, really, right? At that point. Like, because you said, I'm not going to stop at anything. And I know that.
No, no. And I don't want this to come out the wrong way. We had this as a discussion. We were talking about limiting beliefs and failure and sometimes patterns that come into our minds. And as a team, and I shared this during our kind of session. I was like, I will not fail. Like it might take me longer, but this is happening. If we say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And so yeah, I don't want that to come out as arrogant in any way because I've had ups and downs and battles and setbacks and all that kind of stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, we're not failing here. We're moving forward. It might take us longer than we think, but we're getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to something I say, and I think you also say this is the everything is figure outable,
Yeah.
right? Like
Marie
that's why
Forleo. I didn't say that. Marie Forleo, just
yeah,
where credit is
oh,
due.
over a lot.
Yeah.
That's true. But it's like no matter what, I think that's the core belief, right? Like no matter where I'm at, what happens, what setback,
Yeah.
what could lead to failure, I'm gonna figure it out. It's
Yeah.
figure outable, so there's got to be an answer out there, and I'm gonna go out and look for it. Doesn't mean I have all the answers, but I'm gonna be able to find them because it's out there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. And one of the things that I've learned through high performance coaching as well is like that action diminishes lack of self-confidence. The action diminishes fear. So just like even if that action is like you're maybe treading water, you don't know how you're going to get out of a financial bind or whatever the situation someone listening might be going through, write down at least 5 options. Even if one of those options is borrowing money from your parents, where you would rather walk across broken glass than do it, get it written down. Because when we put those options down, it's powerful. You come from this place of like possibilities. It's
Yes.
possible. It moves us from being completely stuck and shifting in. And I've been stuck there before where I've had to go, okay, you're spinning your wheels. Get a piece of paper, write down 5 things. Even if the last two are ridiculous, write them down. And then it helps shift us into the future.
I love that. And you shared that with me before too. It's generating possibilities is what you're doing, like
Yes.
generating
Yes.
options. And it when we talk about possibility thinking, it goes back to even like companies that are trying to be more innovative. Like I think about my background in product management, right? It's not only when are you stuck, but it's like when you want to think of an impossible goal, right? Like, what if we could do anything? Like, what would
Yes.
be the ultimate thing? And then it's like, generate as many ideas as you can for what are some ways that that could become possible. And it's like the ridiculous ideas, write them down anyway, because actually your brain really wants to solve the puzzle, right?
Oh,
And
it's
it,
wild.
yeah,
Yes.
it's that shifting from the problem to the solutions, right? And so when you talk about how you bring that mindset to your teams and how you lead them into believing in possibilities, how you lead them into, believing that they could do anything, and you have that belief for them, and so they can kind of hang on to it for themselves. And you talk about like even your journey, like screw it, let's do it. I love that too because it's like we talk about a faith a lot too. I believe that that little spark that comes up in you that says, you should do this. Like, go talk to that
Yeah.
person. Go call that person. Start your own business. Like that, to me, in my belief system, and anybody, other people may call it different things, intuition, they may call it um, other things. I say that's the Holy Spirit that's talking to you, right? And so when God plants that little idea or that little dream or that big dream, it's because it's meant for you, right? Like it's leading you to something. And so, yeah, you can get stuck in the mind and overthink and all of that, or you can go after it and follow that and have that faith. So why don't you talk about what role faith has had on this journey? Because there are times where things seem like impossible. Like, how do I come out of this? Right? Like, I can't believe how many like challenge after challenge after challenge I'm facing. Where do
Yeah.
from from there? Is it just possibilities? Is it like what's your process?
Yeah. So I'm thinking back to so many things. So many things are going through my mind right now, from being uniquely and wonderfully made to no surprises to leading with grace. So I'm pointing out the three because I want you to remind me of them.
Right.
So the one, I had an aha going through the certified high performance journey and really knowing myself through these open-ended questions is like, I think it was only a year ago that I came to this realization because, like, I'm feisty, I'm opinionated, I'm a bit bananas at time. I shoot from the hip, right? Thank goodness I have a partner on the team who's like methodical and keeps me in check, right? But I struggled with this, like, I'm a little bananas, right? And then I had this aha moment. It's like, no, no, you are uniquely crafted, warts and all. And the little bit of bananas balances out and maybe it gets other people excited on the team or whatever, right? So it was like having that realization that even my shortcomings, these are not or the
Yes.
challenges, these are not that I was made wrong. It's I'm only uniquely that, right? So I would say that was a huge shift for me. The second point, what was my second point?
I grabbed your first and your last.
My second point was, oh yes, nothing is a surprise to God.
That was it.
Okay. So during COVID, I mean, that brought every entrepreneur to their knees. It brought everybody to their knees. And I remember getting a sense of calm and clarity that I believe I serve a God that is not like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Right? Like I just don't believe that. And so I
Yeah.
had to tap into like, this is a part of the journey and the plan. And okay, it means we're not going to get as ahead as fast, maybe as an organization. We were able to hold on to our entire team. That was really important to me. Um, but it was like knowing that I didn't have to be completely in control, right? The 5 year plan put on hold. What are we learning about ourselves? How can we connect with our team at a deeper level? Relishing and like really appreciating clients that were supportive. So that was big. Like knowing there's a grand plan and like we're this, but still we're important, but this compared to what's going on, right? And so knowing that it's okay, everything will be okay. Might not turn out the way we expect, but it'll be okay. And then the third thing where it's leading with grace, because I do shoot from the hip. And I'm the type of person, I get excited. My instinct is to talk over people. My instinct is to jump on ideas, right? So it's like, I know when I go into our strategic planning sessions with our leadership team, when we get our quarterly leadership confidence survey back, I'm on my knees that morning praying for grace, that I will leave space for other people's opinions, that if there is tough feedback, I'll receive it with grace. I will be humble enough to course correct, that I will leave space for other people. So I think that has been huge. And then I didn't say this is my 3 point that I forgot, but the fourth is it has completely changed my hiring as well, where I am leaning into show me, Chris, make it crystal clear, because we're a really special team who should be coming onto this team, and make it completely evident if somebody should not, a way of protecting what we have. So I would say leaning in on all of those levels has been, for me personally, in the past few years, definitely has been increasingly so. Because before then, I was just kind of like, doing my own thing and, not really seeking. Now I'm seeking wisdom, right? I don't know the answers. So give me the wisdom, give me the grace. Yeah. Yeah.
Love that. I love that. And I think it does tie back to, everything happens for a reason, right? I I believe that you're right because like I don't think Juan died for a reason, right? But I remember that big shift from what you said was asking myself, like, why me? Like, why this? Why? To what am I learning from this? Right? Like, what am I supposed to take away from this? Like, what is this teaching me? Um, and it was a huge shift, like, because ultimately I do believe that we are here to become like the best version of ourselves, like what God intended us to become, right? It is what we're here to do is like self-actualize, I guess, is how some people would put it. But and to discover our purpose and how we're here to impact other people. And so it wasn't for nothing, it wasn't like the why wasn't the important question to ask. It's like, what am I learning from this? And like you said, nothing is a surprise to God. So this is part of that journey. And what am I learning? And, even when you talk about the hiring process, um, and maybe this, because I do love how connected you are to the Holy Spirit. Like I feel so many times that you would actually be so in tune with God's voice that you knew that this is the right decision for our team. He did lead me here, and I remember you had a very difficult situation um, with an employee that had just started, right? And for not very long. So I remember you told that story, and it was in the context of a shift, right? Of going from, why don't you tell it? You tell this how you used to think about it, and then how you were looking at it now from that new lens, right?
Well, and I've shared with you a few different stories where, I'm meditating and I will hear a voice crystal clear. And in that situation, it's like, I'm protecting you. Like,
Mhm.
I am protecting you. This is a decision that needs to be made. And so having that clarity, but also it's so interesting because when you were originally talking about that, you know where my mind went? It went to, and I pride myself in this, that I feel this deep connection to my team. I remember doing my meditation and prayers one morning and just feeling that I needed to reach out to one of my team members. That I needed to reach out to that team member, and they were going through crisis in that moment. So it's like that prompting and leading. But yes, very often I will hear, I'm doing my stretching, my yoga, my meditation, my prayers, and I will just hear like, I've got you. Trust me. Just trust me. Lean into this. Do this. You don't understand. Or you think I've brought you this far and now I'm leaving. I got you. Like keep going. So yeah, I have a lot of moments like that.
Yeah, because so much of courage, like part of it is like you said, take the action and it'll become clear later, right? Like with the action comes clarity. And then to do that, you have to have some level of faith, right? Like faith in the unknown and the unseeable, the things you can't touch and feel and, have in front of you, but inside, right?
Yeah.
So for the people that are listening that maybe aren't as in touch with, and people call it intuition, but I think it's that spiritual connection to God, right? To other people might call it other things, whatever. But what do you think allowed you to have that? And how, because it sounds like it plays a major role in the way that you lead, in the way that you run your company, in the way that just live, right? Your day-to-day life. So how do you tap into that? How did you come to like, what's that journey been like?
I think it's maybe as I've gotten older, it's quieting these scrambled eggs of like, right? Like, um, chasing thoughts and what's next and just like really slowing down. Doing yoga, doing stretching, prayer and meditation has really helped with that. To stop, to slow down, to listen. But I mean, I'm leaning into that just 2 hours before we did this today. I met with an amazing organization yesterday. We're working on an executive door opener program to get them in front of some major donors. And I was like, give me wisdom, give me clarity, give me creativity. Like, and boom, it's like a tagline came up with a strategy to open this door to financial institution, right? Like it's listening to that, but stopping long enough to listen, which is a
Yeah.
lifelong journey for me.
Like, and that I feel like has also been a theme in a lot of the, personal development books out there. The One Thing, Think and Grow Rich. It's like building the time. Like as a leader, as an executive, as a someone that is got a lot of responsibility. Really, everyone should, but especially in those situations, right, where you have a lot of pressure and you are moving really quickly. To build in the time into your schedule to be quiet and
Yes.
just slow down. I think that
Yes.
that's really like you've applied that in a big way. You've seen the results of that in a big way too. So yeah, I think that's powerful. So I wanted to loop back a little bit to the hiring process too, because it was the aspect of like how do you know, yes, intuitively, like you're connected to God and but how do you know, like when is it time for someone to move on, right? Like how do you make those really difficult decisions, right?
So I would say it's not never been on skill or making a mistake. I don't care. I have a bounce back factor that like shocks everybody around me, where I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm not going to hold anybody, accountable for something if we've already addressed it and we've moved on. There's always a solution. We'll figure it out. It's never been about that. It's been misalignment of values.
Mhm.
It's been that breach of core values. And some of them are evident immediately, right? In this case where we got, within like a week, we just knew this is not an alignment to our core values at all. Courage, ownership, growth, those are our big ones. We have secondary, like hustle, we have those, but courage, ownership, growth, right? And if people aren't aligned with those values, there's nothing to consider. There's nothing to hum and haw about. It's like if that person doesn't uphold those values and I turn a blind eye, it tells the rest of the team, well, if that person's a producer, she'll keep them around, right? One of my biggest career moves, and probably the best, has been firing $1 million producer who wasn't in line with our core values. And it was so scary. And I thought our business is going to be impacted, blah, blah, blah. And our business shot through the roof. And no harm to this person, but this person's core values were not aligned with ours. And so we were trying to fit this square peg in a round hole, and an amazing person, but the core values weren't aligned. And so freeing that person to go and do their own thing, because the reality is that person's not happy. Like if someone's thinking of someone on their team right now and you're not happy with them, chances are they are not happy either, because they're forcing it. Like our environment is very unique. We do group coaching. We do individual coaching. I had somebody leave our team. Again, nothing wrong with this person. She left on her own. She's like, this is so triggering for me. This whole sharing, this whole like personal stuff, it is not for me. I'm like, that's totally okay. It's totally okay, right? It'll open space for the right person. So,
Right. Yeah. And that brings me back even to, our shifting the belief that we have to be what everybody needs or wants us to be. Like we have to adapt to everybody else, and how that goes from, limiting ourselves to be who you are, who you were made to be, and like just be uniquely that, and the right people will come, right? You will attract who you're meant to actually attract. And that was part of even when you were starting to put out those job ads, like let those people like self-identify as people that don't want to work for you.
yes,
That's better, right? That's better.
yes,
Like you can't be everyone's, everything to everyone. And that I think is also related to product development, right? Like the minute you try to meet everybody's needs, you've watered down your product, you've watered down your company, you've watered down your culture. Like I love that you do hold firmly to your values, and that you do hold firmly to, this is how I want to run my company, and whoever really can embrace that and grow from that, they're going to thrive here. And whomever it isn't for, they're going to, they have a different company that is meant for them, and like releasing them, like you said, that I think is so powerful, right? To stand in that. That's awesome. And when we talk about that, it also it reminds me of the conversations we've had around identity, right? Like,
mm,
so shifting our identity, or believing, like knowing even what we want our identity to be. So what has been that, um, you know, big aha moment for you with identity, and why identity is so important, why we should um, maybe rethink the way we look at identity even.
yeah. I love this so much because I'm actually revisiting Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. I'm rereading it. And I went through an exercise just this past weekend, and it was like 3 beliefs that you previously held that have shifted. And one of them is about identity. And the whole premise is like, go through these because we change, we evolve, hopefully, right? And so you've changed some of these beliefs, or you've changed this identity. So if that's possible in these 3 situations, what are you ready to change moving forward, right? So going through that exercise was so cool. So one of the things was identity. And I had always, well, I grew up very overweight. So when I was 11 years old, I was 5 foot, 210 pounds. So I wore my dad's shorts and I was a thick girl and I had a hard time running around the track. I hated gym class. You know, I wasn't bullied. I had great friends. So I don't have like a horrific story, but I just always wished that I felt comfortable in my body. And I went through many ups and downs, from being very overweight to dropping more than 100 pounds and being anorexic and being completely unhealthy and having this really unhealthy relationship with food and my body. I remember, you know, being a size 5, thinking I looked horrible in this dress, being a size 15, thinking I looked horrible. And I always did this like yo-yo roller coaster. And I was actually seeing a naturopath. She's like, I think you would benefit from speaking to somebody about, because I remember she wanted to weigh me and I was like, I don't want to know. So we got talking about that and the number. I still don't know. I know that I'm healthy. I know that I train like an athlete. I eat like an athlete. I prioritize my health. And so I'm good. But I remember telling her, like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know the number because I'll spiral from here, right? I'll be counting calories on a lettuce leaf. So I was like, we can't go there. So I remember going through speaking to a therapist, and really shifting my mindset where I was no longer going to count the calories. I wasn't going to go on like a yo-yo extreme program. I wasn't going to do the poop shakes for 3 weeks, right? Where you feel amazing at the beginning and then you put it all back on again, right? And like disastrous to your body. But anyhow, I didn't respect my body or appreciate my body. And I remember this probably happened. I've been consistently working out for 6 years, not counting calories, not weighing myself, basing my fitness and my health and nutrition as, am I behaving like an athlete? Am I being good to my body? And it was so cool because I had this profound shift where, like, now, so for instance, later this afternoon, I'm having coffee and a chocolate croissant with one of my close friends, where pre this journey, I'm like, oh, I can't even have birthday cake on my birthday. But now I'm like, 99% of the time I eat really well. And it's just a healthier relationship and just changing that identity. I'm somebody who always works out. I always work out. And I eat nutritious food 90 to 95% of the time. And I get to enjoy and have some other, you know, indulgences at other times. But I remember I had this massive, massive shift. And it was during the pandemic because I really decided to really focus on health for obvious reasons. And I remember it was the first time in my life I looked in the mirror and I was like, dang. And I'm certainly not a size 5 and I'm not a size 15, but I found this sweet spot of like, you're being good to you. Awesome. And I feel like confidence has come from that. Yeah, it's just a healthier identity.
Yeah. So what would you say your identity was before? And then like how did it shift? Like how did you decide your
Oh,
identity?
so powerful. Language is so powerful. I remember I used to even verbalize it and say, I'm someone who will always need to diet in order to stay trim. Right? And I would say that cancel, cancel, cancel. Now I know if I'm good to my body, if I'm putting proteins in, if I'm being sensible, I'm not one extreme or the other, my body will be good back to me. Yeah. And like, I'm not going for a 6-pack. I'm going for like, I do those squats and sit ups so that when I'm 80 or 90, I can lift my butt off the couch myself, right? So, yeah, it's just a healthier outlook.
So going back to the Tony Robbins exercise, what are some other identities that you have had and had to shift, or what are new ones that you want to adopt now?
I love that question. So, another identity is being terrified of the ocean, um,
Mhm.
and actually going in and surfing. And then when I was doing that exercise, I was like, wait, what if I completely shifted this to I'm a natural in the ocean, right? So that's my future focus identity for that, right? Because I'm like, okay, I just changed these other identities. Like another one, because going across the track field, being the last one in, carrying all that extra weight and feeling so uncomfortable to, not being a runner to like, I remember the first time I ran 5K, I bawled my eyes out. I could not believe that I had done it, right? And I'm married to a gazelle who will not train and he'll be like, I'm going for a run. And he'll go out on a Sunday for 21K or something ridiculous. And I'm like, all right, we're just, he's a runner. And I would say, like, I can't run. And so that has been a belief that I mean, I don't do as much running now, not because I don't think I can. I do it to warm up, but I love weight training. I'm like more into HIIT and weight training now. But that was also something that I had to shed, right? So
Mhm.
and there's so much that's in process, I'm striving now to like really be instead of being this like, you know, vivacious, take charge leader, really like my identity, I want that to shift more into being full of grace, wise, purposeful. So yeah, lots of shifts are going on.
But yes, I believe the same thing. And actually, it's biblical, even like our words are so powerful, right? What we're saying to ourselves is so powerful. And like, even for me, one of the moments that I had, and I had a coach, Moses Stanzas, who I actually also have had on the podcast, that made open my eyes to it in a new way. And it was like I did a renewed mindset program with him, and it was actually the exercise was more of a weight training exercise. I had never
Ooh.
done any weight training ever, and I was like, I can't do like in my head, I can't do this. I just like no, but it was like a mind over matter type of exercise. And as a coach, I was like, no, I have to do this. Like in my mind, I was like, mind over matter, mind over matter. My mind is going to be stronger than my body. And so what happened was somewhere along the exercise, I had never done like they're like they're like squats into a press up. I forget what.
Yes.
And so the exercises are called soul crushers because they are soul.
Longest 45 seconds of your life.
It's like, well, so the whole thing was like you start at 5, and you work your way up to 15, and then you work your way down back to 5 at one adding one in one increments. So you end up doing like 100 of these, and you have to do these bear claws forward and back in between. And somewhere along the middle of this, I said to myself, like I was in tears. Like it does crush your soul because there's such a connection with how your brain perceives stress, whether it be physical or emotional, right? Like or mental. Like we respond to it in the same way. And so you get real fast access to what goes on in your mind when you're under when it's a physically you can put yourself in that situation really quick, right? And I was like literally like sobbing with like mucus running down my face. Like I was falling apart. And somewhere along the lines I got down on a squat to do the press up, and I realized, oh, I can use my leg strength to press up.
Mm.
Like because I'd never done one of these. I thought I'm doing all arms. Like I'm just like I don't know how to do, like I have these puny, scrawny little arms. And I said, no, my legs will do the work. I'm a runner.
Mm.
It was that identity, and I like leaned on it. I was like, I'm a runner. My legs will do this. I know I can. And it was like, what a difference it made to because I my identity before was I don't lift weights, like I don't do this, I'm not gonna be able to do it. To I'm a runner, my legs can do this, I'm a runner. Like I leaned on that. And then actually, as a runner, the next thing was after I did all that, and I was like, oh, finally, and I'm dying. He's like, okay, now you're gonna run 5 miles.
Oh, that's a trainer. Wow.
Yeah. So it was not something you do like regularly. It's like a
Ah.
once shift your brain, like break you down and build you back up kind of an exercise.
Mm.
Getting rhabdomyolysis from that. So I don't recommend this for anyone. But the learning for me was, oh, like your identity really drives what you believe, right? Like it really drives what you believe you can do and what you believe you can't do. And when I lost my husband, like I totally, like so many identities were dropped because the year before he passed, I left my corporate job where I was a product management director, right? To now I'm on my own. I'm trying to like build something of my own, and my husband passes, and now like I went from being a wife and a product management director to like I'm not sure if I can build a business. I'm not a business owner yet. Like that identity hadn't shifted for me yet. I'm not a wife now. I'm a single mom. It was just a single mom, a widowed single mom, and it was just like I had lost so many like I didn't know what I was anymore. And even just starting to call myself a coach, I remember was such a big shift, right? Like I would be like, I saw, who was it? I forget who the coach, what her name is now. It's escaping me, but she talked about like, just start introducing yourself as a coach. I'm like,
Mm.
oh, okay. And I thought, okay, no biggie. And then I started doing that, and I realized, oh, this is really hard, right? This is really hard. And I think when I think about your story, it's like going when you set that big impossible goal. I remember it was like your identity as a business owner and the kind of business that you had, right? Um, and so maybe talk a little bit about how can people become more aware of their limiting beliefs? How can people become more aware of what are the beliefs that they're holding on to that might be holding them back? And about what they think things should be like. Because even since then, I'll let you talk about it in your own word. Um, you know, the shift that you've made in rest and um,
Mm.
yeah. Okay. Why don't we dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say for the first question, it's language. It's what you say to yourself. So I went through a profound journey when I had this healthier relationship or started developing this healthier relationship with my body. One of the things my therapist had me do, which if you have body issues, is an incredibly powerful exercise, although probably recommend with help from somebody. Um, she had me write down in a journal every time I had this self-deprecating voice and thought. So I carried this little journal, and I remember sitting at my desk weeping because I time stamped it. It was every 2 minutes. I don't know how I was able to grow a business when this was in the back, just going through my mind constantly. And I see it. I was able to go through this journey, timestamp it, bring awareness to just how debilitating and bananas it was that this was consuming my thoughts. And then what could I replace it with? And so the ritual that I went through with my therapist was burning the book. And I will tell you that physical symbol of burning the book and starting anew, I do not have those self-deprecating thoughts. I can tell you wholeheartedly. They just don't come into my mind anymore. I won't allow it. So it's like guarding our minds. And I see it at more with newer team members at Sigma. But it's actually very cool because the rest of the team will chime in. So you're on a Zoom call and someone will say, oh, well, that's a stupid idea. And someone will come off mute and go, cancel, cancel, cancel. Right? Because like cancel it out. Don't accept that. You don't need to receive that. If someone else says it about you, you certainly don't have to accept it if you're saying it about you. So it's the awareness. If I would say if somebody does find themselves, beating themselves up that they're not good enough or it's not a good idea or I shouldn't speak up, like bring that to mind and write it down and timestamp it and see how all consuming it is. And that awareness is the first step. And then burn it, start fresh. It does not have to be a lifetime story.
And Tony Robbins says this too, because what you said, awareness is the first step. The next step, when you burnt it, what you did is you made a decision, right? You
Yeah.
decided this is it. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yes.
This, I'm done with burning it. Like that's what it represented is that decision to do something different. And that is the next step. And I love that. Like it was kind of a ritual of sorts because it left a emotional imprint on your being, which is such a motivator for taking action too.
And
Yeah.
then it's important though, then what's next, right? So I then wrote out, I am kind, I'm confident, I'm an athlete, like writing out what is it? You might not feel it in that moment, but I remember having a shift about 6 months into this ritual of saying that. And I would, whenever I'd get to the train station about a minute before getting into the office, I would say it. I'm kind, I'm confident, I'm generous. I'm like kind of like work myself up as I, and then about 6 months in, I told my coach, I'm like, oh, I believe it. Like it took that long, right? And it's like, and I can tap into that, to feel that, like really feel that. And I write it out every morning. It's part of my journaling. It's not in the high performance planner, but I write out those I am statements
Mhm.
before I write out my gratitude pieces. It's like we're crafting how we're going to show up. And too often, and I think for the first 30 years, it was just kind of going with it instead of crafting. This is how
Yes.
I'm going to show up, being intentional.
Yes, and it goes back to intention. I wanted to touch on that in a second because that's what I wrote down actually when you talked about, I don't know how I ran a business with all this going on in the back of my mind. I want to talk about that. But before we move on from that, like I do want to touch on what you said. And I just like lost my thought for a second. It was like what we say to ourselves because our brain literally is looking for evidence all the time for whatever you're saying. And so if you're saying the negative things, our brain is looking for evidence of those negative
Yeah.
things. And you could try to prove that. And if you keep saying positive things, what you're really doing is you're also now looking for evidence that those are true. And the thing is, it will guide. So for the person that doesn't believe it, and you say there is no evidence, what is so great about intention is that you can decide then if I want to believe these things, what kinds of things would I be doing as this new person and do those, right? It's the intention to show up as the kind person, the person that has grace, and whatever list of affirmations you want to have for yourself. Those are your intentions, right? Like because you decide I'm going to be that kind of person. Now, what kind of actions do I take today that would be in alignment with those, right?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
it's so it's what I'm hearing from your story is like that it's proof that it's moldable, shapeable, that you can change it whenever you want.
Yes. And the reason I jumped forward was like, that was an important part that I didn't talk about. Like, I could sit here and say I'm an athlete and have my chocolate croissant and coffee, but it's backed up with action. And that's
Mhm.
where, and I love the high performance planner, is that gut check every day. So the beautiful thing about the high performance planner is it forces me to stop and look, do that gut check, but I'm also calculating the wins. And it's an amazing planner if somebody is going through, like, people would during COVID, they'd say, oh yeah, like the days are kind of like meshing and the weeks are meshing and the months are meshing and then the year was a blur or whatever.
Mhm.
Did the performance planner throughout all of COVID, and it forces you on a weekly basis to reflect and capture those moments like, oh yeah, that was a really beautiful moment. I forgot about
Mhm.
that. And capturing it and then doing it every week, every month, and then an annual reflection. So there is so much that with intention, we have these beautiful micro moments that absolutely get forgotten if we don't stop to be intentional. But I love that you remembered that, because I didn't touch on it. Is, yeah, we can say that we're generous, hoard money. We can say we're an athlete and never work out. It's backed up with action. That
Yeah.
obviously is key ingredient.
Yeah. And so what came up for me when you said, I don't know how I ran a business with like all these thoughts running through my mind, all these negative thoughts running through my mind. Actually remembered a time when you said that, and I don't know how much we didn't talk about this, so this is be a surprise, but the you ran there was a time in your life, and I wonder if it aligns with that time where you ran your business off like FU energy.
Oh, let me think about this. I don't know if the stars were aligned on that one or not. But I do think, like, coming back to that, I think a lot of people are, I was on autopilot. So I knew what needed to get done. I was able to execute. The difference is now I'm executing, but I feel higher levels of purpose, engagement, joy. That was
Mm-hmm.
missing before. So, like, yeah, someone might be struggling with like this voice is saying, oh, don't say that, don't speak up, that's a stupid idea, don't even bother sharing, or maybe it's body image related. Like, yeah, you can still function,
Right.
but there's a deeper well of joy and fulfillment when you can quiet that voice and be fully engaged in what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like going back to intention, it's that your intention is to lead with purpose. Your intention is to, change people's lives, as opposed to like your intention is just to make sure the competitors don't eat your lunch or or
Right.
take your lunch or I think that's the difference is like you can run your business however you want to, and maybe you can be really successful doing it. I think the greatest leaders are, like you said, are leading with the intention to like make a difference and fulfill their purpose. And those leaders are actually not only the best at what they do because they have that intention, but also because that intention is what gives them that inner sense of joy and peace and fulfillment, which it's like that cycle, right? Like when you feel like that, you're naturally going to be a light in the room. You're naturally, and how I love something else you say all the time too is like, what is your intention when you walk in the room? I think you want to be, let's see, I think it was electric. Is that it? I forget what the
Oh, yeah. Well, vivacious, magnetic, electric, it's that, yeah, where if somebody is feeling down, that by being on our team Zoom call and they see that I'm bringing great energy or being magnetic and bringing awesome energy. Like it's a huge part. I remember even telling one of my team members, she came to a huddle one morning and I pulled her aside afterwards. I was like, you are going to have a phenomenal sales day today. She's like, what? I'm like, tap into that energy you brought to the meeting. You're going to clean up today. And of course she did, because it's that mind body connection belief, right? It's powerful.
Yes. And you say what I heard when you said that, it's like you don't do that by accident. Like you intentionally say, this is how I want people to feel when I'm in the room with them.
Yeah.
And that's like so beautiful and powerful. And obviously, for those of you that are just listening and not seeing, she always brings that energy. Like, and I think you can hear it in your voice, even like you have all that beautiful energy. And so thank you so much. This has been such a treat. So tell us a little bit about what you do at Sigma Promotions, like what if somebody wants to get involved with you and work with you, how can you help business owners and leaders in big organizations meet their goals?
Besides changing lives, no, just a little thing. No, besides that, and our obvious, connection to personal development, the simplest way to look at our business is we sell branded merchandise. But what we do that's very different, and this is our sweet spot, is if there's an organization looking to go to a trade show, they've been before, they've given away stuff, hope for the best, they haven't seen results. And they're like, this year, I want to be able to go into that show. I want to know what the outcomes were. I want it to be measurable. We actually show them a 3-tier process to weed out freebie seekers and people who are unqualified, to really connect with potential and to re-engage with awesome clients. So we teach them that. So at the end of and awesome follow-up strategies. So that's one side. And then the other side, which I love, which was I was working on this morning, are the executive door opener programs. So this is perfect for an organization where they are not sending out 50,000 postcards. That is not our sweet spot. We're not doing mass marketing. This is an organization that says, you know what, these 12 prospects would completely change our bottom line, but we can't get in front of them. We've tried emailing, targeted social media might not be working. Our clients or our team members are calling on them as prospective clients. They're not really getting anywhere. We come up with an awesome way, and we've had some award-winning promotions doing this to open those doors. So it warms up and kind of romances the prospect to being open to a conversation with that sales rep. So those are like the two main strategic sides that we absolutely do really well and with really happy people.
Yes. Well, how could they not be happy when your intention is to make them very happy?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, Nikki, that's awesome. If for anybody that wants to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to get in touch?
Ooh, I am on LinkedIn quite a bit, and I definitely will be checking in on messages there. And then if you want to learn more about our organization or New Horizons, there's details about that if you felt inclined to find out more about making an impact. That can all be connected through our website, which is sigmapromotions.com.
Thanks so much, Nikki. This has been such a treat. I always love chatting with you. And I know that our listeners are going to have so many great nuggets to grasp on from our conversation. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Courage and Purpose. I hope today's insights inspired you to take bold action and align your life and career with what truly matters to you. If you're ready to dive deeper, I invite you to download my free Action Indicator Assessment, a powerful tool to help you uncover what's holding you back and take the next step towards clarity and confidence. Just visit www.lifeonpurpose.coach/action indicator to get started today. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who could use a little extra courage on their journey. Until next time, stay true to your purpose, lead with courage, and keep thriving. I'll see you in the next episode.